If you are looking for the next big multi-million dollar opportunity in fintech, you have to listen to this.
This is Real Talk Fintech Trailblazer, brought to you by me-ssion in collaboration with the Singapore Fintech Association. Hi, welcome to Real Talk Fintech Trailblazer series by me-ssion in collaboration with the Singapore Fintech Association, supported by the InsurTech Subcommittee. Here, we uncover the stories of visionary leaders, innovative entrepreneurs, and industry disruptors who are redefining the financial landscape. Joining me in this series from the Singapore Fintech Association InsurTech Subcommittee is my co-host, Matthew Chu. So before we begin welcoming our guest, Matthew, can we share with all our viewers out there what does the InsurTech Subcommittee in the Singapore Fintech Association do, and what are the subcommittee's goals?
So the goals of the subcommittee is to foster the development and growth of the broad InsurTech ecosystem in Singapore by working collaboratively with the various stakeholders in the industry in 4 key areas of focus. Number 1, engagement with the regulators. Number 2, engagement with the industry. Number 3, nurture the development of InsurTech companies and ecosystem. And number 4, talent development. I think today we are very thrilled to have Rajiv, a partner at Cathay Innovation, a global venture capital firm managing over $3 billion worth in assets. Rajiv is not just a VC, he worked the path of entrepreneurship himself, having founded and successfully exited a startup before transiting into the world of investing.
So with deep experience in supporting startups, he has been most instrumental in scaling some of the most innovative ventures across various countries, combining with his first-hand entrepreneur insights with a sharp eye of identifying game-changing opportunities. He brings a unique perspective to the table. So let's dive into his remarkable journey from founder to VC and uncover the lessons he have learned along the way. Welcome to our show, Mr. Rajiv.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us. Right, why don't you actually share with our audience out there who you are and what you're doing now?
Sure. My name is Rajiv Keshup. I was born and raised in Dubai. I'm currently a partner at Cathay Innovation and Cathay Capital, and part of a team that's responsible for building the venture and technology ecosystem for Cathay Capital in Southeast Asia. As part of our mandate here, we spend a lot of time not only covering all sorts of technology topics in Southeast Asia, but also across South Korea, India, and now most recently in the Middle East. I spend half of my time in Singapore and then the other half in the Middle East, where I'm essentially doing the exact same thing.
Wow. Okay, I need to ask, right? How many companies are you managing now or overseeing?
Yeah, so on behalf of Cathay, I manage today, our current portfolio is 8, of which I'm heavily involved in the construction or the growth of 6 of the 8. And again, those span across all sectors within technology.
Wow. Why in specific technology though?
So we think technology underpins all growth, and it's going to be a prerequisite for growth in any business and in any function. It allows for material productivity gains, material efficiency gains, and so for us, it's sort of the north the North Pole of everything that we do, and the North Star of everything that we do. And within that, AI is sort of that next quantum leap, right? Of if you think about why technology, even with AI, productivity gains, efficiency gains are only going to be further catalyzed. Mm-hmm. And so we spend a lot of time thinking about the evolution of technology, not only to progress enterprises, but also to progress society, to make society a better place, a safer place. And so yes, we as a firm, it's embedded in everything that we do.
So I'm curious, Rajiv, how did you come to this stage in your career. So maybe you can share with us your journey from founding your own startup all the way until now.
Yeah, no problem. So for those that don't know, and you might cover this later on. So I used to play cricket
Nice.
a very long time ago. I still do play, but I'm not as good now as I was back in the day. So I played for my high school, state, and national teams until I was about 19, and then at the time, my father said, "Hey, you have two choices. You can continue to play cricket and live on the couch, or you can go get a proper education and get a real job." And you look, at the time, cricket didn't pay what it does now.
No.
So reverse, if I had to. I have a son that's playing cricket, and if he asked me the same thing, I might have a little bit more of a support infrastructure in place for him.
Play sports professionally, yeah.
If he wants to do it professionally.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was an option. So I went to get a college degree in Boston. Graduated. My first job was at AT&T, doing corporate development, corporate strategy, and then from there, I was fascinated, having hired a bunch of consultants, that I wanted to do strategy consulting. So I used to do corporate strategy for the CEO's office at AT&T, and I would see these amazing consultants come in from Bain and McKinsey and BCG, talk about all sorts of other industries, and my view was very telco focused. I was there for a number of years, and so I decided that I wanted to go do that. And so I asked the partner from Bain at the time, "Hey, how do I join your team? What you do is cool." He said, "I would never hire you because you're my number one client, but I do recommend that you go get an MBA." And I said, "From where?" And he said, "I got my MBA from Cornell, and you should. It's a good school. You should apply." So I applied, got in, and went to Cornell, and then. I interned at one of the consulting firms. I'm not going to say which one. And I didn't enjoy it because I was put on an oil and gas project doing HR reorganization.
Okay.
And neither do I enjoy oil and gas. I enjoy energy transition, but not traditional oil and gas. And nor do I enjoy HR reorganization as a topic. And so I was almost put off consulting, but then the original partner who I'd met at the consulting firm who recommended Cornell had a younger brother who was doing TMT consulting for private equity and venture capital. And he was doing it in Boston. So I had a meeting with him, and I started my first role post-business school at the Parthenon Group, which eventually became Parthenon EY, doing exactly that, technology and media telecommunications as a topic, but then doing private equity and venture capital as a area.
How old were you then?
30.
30.
Yeah.
Wow.
At the same time, in addition to that, my wife and I had started a doggy daycare business in New York. And we had built one location primarily out of the need to put our dogs in daycare because effectively there was none anywhere near us. And that one grew to 2 to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then about 7 years later, we sold that business. At the time, I was still in consulting, except I was managing director and running PwC Strategy Ann's entire technology practice out of New York, again for private equity and venture capital. And so in the daytime that was my job, and then the nighttime there was another job, the pet services
Before
job.
the doggies, yeah.
And so that was essentially most of my time in the US. We sold the business in 2018. And I moved to Singapore in 2019.
Nice.
When I moved here, I actually didn't know anybody. It was kind of random. My wife and I had always wanted to explore Asia. We'd neither of us had lived here as adults. And so we really wanted to explore. I first wanted to go to Hong Kong because that was closer to the pulse and the pace of New York City.
Yeah.
But look, Hong Kong was going through riots at the time.
Okay.
And so we said, okay, what's the next best thing? It looks like it could be Singapore. We knew nobody here, but we said, lots of people have moved over and said great things about it. It's safe. And we were primarily looking for safety, and a place that was friendly on taxes. And so we moved here. I started to plug into the startup ecosystem. Was interim CFO at a couple of companies because that was a skill set that I had. And then I met one of the partners who had recently just moved here from Cathay from Shanghai, and he. We kept in touch for nearly a year. And at one point he's like, hey, if you enjoy the investing part, why don't you give this a try? So I joined the firm as a director in 2020. Perfect timing in the middle of COVID. So I didn't really get to meet any of my global team outside of Zoom, which was awkward in 2021 because when I finally did meet them, they said, "Oh, you're a little bit taller than Zoom, you're a little bit shorter, wider, whatever."
Most of the time, it's all on camera.
On the camera,
Yeah.
Exactly.
And you can put a filter to the camera.
I'm not a big fan of the filters, but I did. I hadn't seen anybody from Cathay for the first year.
Wow.
Which is now that I think about it, and now that I know the kind of firm we are, crazy. And I don't recommend it to anybody else, because our business is one that is effectively a high trust business, right? Where we're entrusted by our LPs to deploy a significant amount of capital, tens of millions of dollars into regions and into companies. And so, every I needs to be dotted, every T needs to be crossed, and to be able to trust somebody who's literally come out of nowhere and you haven't met before is incredibly brave. And so I don't take that trust lightly, but at the same time, it's one where that's sort of the DNA and the culture of the firm, and as well as the industry, to be fair.
So for the sake of our viewers, right, what's an LP?
An LP is a godsend
to many people, right?
An LP is an individual or a corporation who is allocated as an allocator of capital. And it can come from different places. They could be corporations that set aside a budget for innovation. That could be an LP. It could be your pension fund, right? So there's your tax dollars that turn into savings, and that could be an LP. And there's a collective group of individuals who effectively entrust a bunch of financial managers to deploy capital across different asset classes. Some are highly liquid, some are illiquid. And so they typically have a portfolio of asset classes from real estate, equities, bonds, government bonds, down to private equity and venture capital. And they give everybody some allocation depending on what strategy they believe is going to maximize the overall group return. And they're literally trying to manage to a certain percentage, right? And so, so we're one of many asset classes within that basket, and that typically builds our LPs.
Right. So that's it, because I think many of our viewers out there might not be fully aware or understand, right, in the VC world, how things revolves around it.
Yeah.
So when you say that your business is a highly trusted one, right, because you don't see the clients.
Yep.
My question to you is, why does your clients trust you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it takes years and years of track record building, and in understanding almost on a heart-to-heart basis what are the skill sets that they're entrusting you with. So, for example, when they entrust us with capital, they entrust that we're going to be able to successfully, based off our track record, deploy capital in companies that are going to progress society, create a large impact globally, and we're going to have our finger on the pulse on the next big thing. Also, at the same time, because it's always not linear, companies, when they do get into trouble, they also trust us to do the right thing with those companies, treat the founders right, and make sure that we navigate out of it. And so this doesn't happen overnight. This happens over years and years and years of track record building. And because we're dealing largely in private equity and venture capital with assets that are illiquid, it takes a really long time to find out if you did well or you didn't do well, right? The fund cycle is typically 10 years long.
10 years?
10 years.
Wow.
So when an LP commits to deploying $1 into a fund, they have to think that they're not going to get they're going to get most of that return back-ended.
Right.
Years 5 to year 10.
So these 10 years, the money are locked in a
It's
way.
locked in.
Yeah, so they can't retrieve
But they also
it.
don't give us the money all at once,
Ah.
right? So
According to
it's called over a period of time, typically over the first 5-7 years. And then you're typically at a point where you're not investing and you're not reinvesting. You're just waiting for
An exit.
things to happen so that you can, or you have to make things happen in order to compound and get to a point of exit.
Right.
So I'm curious. I don't think many people understand or they know what's a typical day like in the life of a VC.
Yeah.
Maybe you can share.
There's no typical day. I wish there was a typical
I know
day.
a single component will be the cricket playing, of course.
Of course, there's a lot of cricket playing for all VCs. No, I'm kidding. There's no typical day. And it's one of those jobs where you're going through a roller coaster of emotions on any given day, right? So there are some I've literally been in position where there are some conversations I've had at 1 or 2 o'clock that requires getting rid of a number of jobs.
Right.
And then an hour later, someone's pitching me on a brand new investment. And then an hour later, somebody is raising new capital and we're just going over the terms to see if that capital and that for that time and period makes sense, right? And so these are all completely different scenarios, right? And then an hour later, there's somebody who's saying, I want to walk you through the results of our product testing in market A because they're really good, and I want to see how fast we can quickly roll out in all other markets. And so for VCs, there's no typical job, as they are with many other jobs. I don't think there's a typical day anymore for a lot of people. But for us specifically, there's a lot of context switching because I'm constantly dealing with portfolio management and then new deal cycles and then potentially reading and research for new topics that I want to invest in, to reporting back to our LPs, to firm management, and then to all the extracurriculars on the side. So I'm on the board of our university, my alma mater. I'm with SFA, and there's a couple of other sort of charitable things as well. And then there's cricket. So there's no typical day, right? And then there's family in the mix of all of that.
Finally.
And there's a lot of, and then there's parents and there's aging parents. There's all sorts of stuff. But I think for me, I manage my day on hot button issues. So what's really hot and needs addressing immediately, or what is really gaining momentum, and then I sort of park the rest until I have a little bit more time to give focus to him. And that's sort of how I manage things.
So I'm curious because you mentioned so many things in a day. So do the companies that you are invested in, how do they typically look to you as? Is it like a wallet, or are they looking to you for some sort of guidance? Advice for the business.
Yeah. If we are a wallet or an ATM, then we're not the right partner. There are good partners for that, and there are some great partners who prefer that you come to them for capital and then don't come to them for anything else because they're busy giving somebody else capital.
Right.
We're not a good partner for that, and I'm not a good partner for that. I'm a good partner for when a company comes and has tested something and it works really well in one particular segment or one particular country, and now they want to understand how they can use Cathay's platform to really build this globally, and our expertise to build this globally. And they want someone that can be someone that they could
Enabler.
spar with.
Okay.
In order to really drive that forward. That's the partner that we are. And so my position, irrespective of whether we're on the board or not on the board, is to really be a sparring partner and a thought sparring partner. And then once that part is done, to then be an enabler of ideas, of connectivity, of capital, further capital, not just ours, so that we can progress this company forward.
Oh, then you must have had a huge range of experience to even spar with them, because I'm sure they span across many industries, right?
Yeah, but when I joined Cathay, my beard was not gray. It's a lot more gray.
Okay.
So Cathay's really helped me build on a lot of these experiences. You know, when you invest in startups, so when you build a company, everybody thinks it's going to be a linear, straight line.
Oh no, it doesn't happen like
curve.
that, right? Yeah.
And I could tell you now from experience and from my gray hair that is definitely not the case. It is completely a roller coaster. And I take the roller coaster personally because, like I said, this is a trust business, and we're a steward of capital, and I treat the capital like my own, and so I don't like losing money because that loses trust, or
Yes.
it strains trust. I prefer to make sure that we're taking the money and making the best use of those proceeds to really progress the companies forward. And so I ride the waves almost in the same way as the founders
founding
do.
team, right?
Not. I can never be the same because they are taking all of the hits directly. I could obviously still abstain from a lot of that, but I'm still riding a lot of those curves. The only difference is the founder is riding one. We're riding like 5, 7 at a time.
8
8
case now.
at a time. Oh, I have another partner, so it's not like I'm riding it alone. I have somebody to
Share that.
to vent with. And he's great. He's a great listener. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of work. In terms of experience, I think you learn a lot on the fly, but what you are to the founder is their eyes and ears in the market. And so the founder won't have the ability to go and say, hey, what is this guy doing? What is that guy doing? We do, right? We see everything. And with the Cathay platform, we don't only see everything in Southeast Asia, we see everything in Latin America, in Europe, in the US, in China, in Africa. And so we're able to say, hey, look, this model works, this doesn't work. We've seen this here.
Okay.
I mean, just yesterday, we have this company that is doing super well, has grown super well. It's in AI. And I saw another company that's doing something very similar raise a small amount of capital in Latin America. But their products are much, much more diverse and deeper than our company, than the company that we have. And even though they're smaller, so they're a little bit newer to the market.
Yeah.
And so I immediately contacted the fund that I know that backed that deal and said, hey, I want these guys to talk. Because even though we don't compete in each other's markets, I think there's a lot of cross-pollination that we could learn from each other.
Yeah.
They could learn how to scale fast. We could learn a bunch of things, and hopefully there's a good partnership there. So those are the types of things that we will do for our portfolio.
companies.
Yeah.
So in fact, as you sharing that, right, I was very curious. Maybe you could share with us some examples of some highs that you were riding, examples of some lows that you were riding.
Okay. Yeah. We've backed the largest digital bank in Southeast Asia. We did that deal just before COVID, and that company has grown. I mean, that went well, then was kind of flattish, and in the last few years has done super well, and should be on track, to go find a new home in a public market next year. And that'll be a great success. I mean, Southeast Asia doesn't have too many IPO-able candidates or even large M&A candidates, and certainly no one with a clear track to almost $1 billion of revenue. And so these guys have that path and are super successful. So those will be some of the highs, but people will look at that and say, "Oh yeah, wow, that looks so easy and looks so great."
Yeah, I mean,
nobody knows that
the tough part of things.
It was a lot of up and down, and really you're always selling. So you're convincing people here, you're convincing people back home in Paris. We're Paris headquartered, so for us, Paris, convincing our founders that, hey, this is a great company, we should continuously reinvest, etc. And so to see that proof case now show up is great. There's another company we invested. It went like a rocket ship, and then it crashed as well. And then the rebuild has taken a little bit of time, but over the last year, it's almost back to where it was a rocket ship before. And that up and down has eroded, trust inside, and made sure that we have to double check and triple check and make sure that this time that we go up, we kind of stay up. So there's a lot of lessons learned from the past. It's all part of the journey. So now when new founders come to me and they pitch and they say, "Oh, we can go IPO, we can do this, we can do that," I'm a little bit more wiser than I was, 5 years ago in terms of really how is that possible? Which market? Who do you know?
Yeah.
Microsoft will acquire us for, $500 million. Okay, cool. Who do you know at Microsoft that's going to do that? Have you checked out Microsoft's latest product roadmap? Are you a part of it? And if you're not, what makes you think they're going to come out of the sky and pop up and acquire something random in Singapore or whatever? So I'm a little bit more skeptical now, a little bit more cautious. But I'm still, once we're into something, we're all in. We're 110%.
So based on that, right, I'm curious. I mean, on behalf of all the startups out there, right, as a VC, what do you look for in a startup?
So the first, I only look for 3 things. I used to look for more. I'd had a longer list. If you asked me this a few years ago, I have to have this metric and this metric and this metric. Now it's just a couple of 3 things. So the first thing I look for is, are you solving a problem in a really big market? And can I take this problem? So that's part A. And can I take this problem and export it to other markets? I.e., is this the same problem in every market?
That's very scalable
in every market.
Right.
And don't tell me this is a Singapore only problem or a Southeast Asia only problem. That's not enough anymore for me.
For you.
Or for us. It needs to truly be a global problem. So I'll give you an example. We backed a company that at the time looked like it sold refurbished cell phones, iPhones online. And it was in Singapore and Australia. So we backed it pretty early. And everybody said, "Oh, that's such a weird, thing to back. And why can't Amazon do that? Why can't Carousel do that?"
Yeah.
But nobody was doing that in organized fashion. Today, that company has scaled from just being Singapore only to now being a US company that happens to have presence in Singapore, Australia, but majority is more US focused. They manage Walmart's refurbished business.
Wow.
They manage Amazon and eBay's refurbished business or partner with them. And they're poised to become one of the largest refurbished players, not only of cell phones, but of all products in all categories. So baby products, gym products, sporting goods.
Wow.
They're going to become the Amazon for refurbished products, right? So when you think about new, maybe you go to Amazon. When you think about used, you go to Rebello. There's a shameless plug for Rebello. And it's available in Singapore, by the way. And so with that, we looked at something that, so I'll give you why we backed Rebello.
Yeah.
Okay. So you give the perfect example. So We backed them because the market is large, but the problem of refurbished cell phones or refurbished anything is in every country. They could, in theory, be in every single country on the planet. True?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was part one, market. Part two was a founder and founder resilience. Now, these guys one came from France, one came from Austria. They came as immigrants to Singapore, met in Singapore. They were doing other things with other companies before this. Very entrepreneurial, but hadn't really thought about building something huge on their own. They came here as immigrants, built something that then scaled really well in Australia, and then aspired to move to the US.
Right.
To me, that says you are resilient. You are happy to live completely out of your comfort zone. You're happy to focus completely different, and you have massive conviction in your idea. And even though there's a large incumbent or set of incumbents, you feel you could do something better. So for me, that founder resilience is super important. Not only at that point when you're crazy enough to build that idea, but there are going to be hiccups along the way. People aren't going to believe you. You're not going to fall into a certain set of metrics. What do you do, right? You're going to get told no more often than you're told yes. And so as a result of that, can you still survive? Can you still pick yourself up? So that's number two. We look for founder resilience. I look for large markets. The third thing, and is starting to become the most important thing, and I asked this question first before I asked the first two questions, is how do I get my money back? How do we exit? The partnership is good, but at the end of the day, we're partners because we want to go on a journey with you. We want to be helpful to you, but we want to get helpful to you to a point where I can then be helpful to the people who've entrusted me with capital, our LPs, right?
Nice. Yep.
That's how this circle goes around, and that's how I'll be allowed to help the next generation of founders. And so how do I get my money back, right? Where do we exit? Now, there haven't been any exits in Southeast Asia. There's not a lot of public markets stories for tech. And after a certain level, 150, 200 million, there's not a lot of M&A stories. It's not exactly on the radar for US or European companies to acquire stuff here. Yeah. They'll go to LATAM first. They'll go to India first. They'll definitely go to China first before they come here. So how do I get my money back?
Yeah.
Now, to get my money back, you have to answer that first question, which is, can I take this product everywhere? If I can take this product everywhere, the chances of me getting my money back are a lot more realistic, right? And so for me, it's those three things that I look for when backing companies.
I mean, that's awesome. Because most of us, any founders that were to push that, they will just be very passionate about it and they'll run that. But no one will ever thought of how do I actually make money back from my, investors.
Look, we're as founder friendly can be. Okay, we are super helpful to founders. Our terms are super founder, pro founder, or helpful to founders. But everybody, and especially as founders mature within their own build cycle, will also get tired from their own grind and will also want their own money back, right? Yeah. Like they've made an investment of time. They've suppressed a lot of their lifestyle. They've suppressed a lot of maybe their own family needs. And that you can only do that for a sustained amount of time. And at some point, you're going to need to find a path for exits, right? 1, 2, at some point, the founder that started the company may not necessarily be the right person to lead the company for the next stage of growth. Maybe he gets you or she gets you from 1 to 10, but he or she may not be able to get you from 10 to 100. Yeah. And so how do you find a way to bring them out and help them, cash out effectively? And so for us, we're really focused on just being pragmatic capital, right? We're happy to be helpful along the way. We'd love to be helpful along the way. But at the end of the day, it's a two-way street, right?
Yes.
We've got to help you, help us. And that's kind of how we think through.
Yeah. So just I caught a few things that you did mention. You did mention, any investors come in, you look at any other countries but Singapore, right? In fact, you look at Singapore, probably the last few in a way, right? Why do you think so? Why is the current climate done this way? Is it a industry-wide thing? Is it a reputation thing, or is it a, I don't know, Asian culture thing?
Yeah, so Singapore is an amazing destination to start a business because you've got a very tight investor community, you've got a very tight founder community, you've got a lot of legacy expertise, and you've got a government that is pro-tech. So there's a government that really fosters and enables and helps the acceleration of technology adoption in the region. Mm-hmm. Actually, the venture capital industry was founded in principle by great government programs like EDBI, mm-hmm. right? And so it's an amazing place to start a business. However, the population of the retail investor doesn't allow you to take things public that are non-real estate or traditional, healthcare, traditional in nature. And so the SGX still has a lot of room to grow in terms of really building a base that can support technology assets, profitable and non-profitable. Although mm-hmm. these days they're more profitable than non-profitable, but still. And so Singapore, and then the market as a user market is just far too small, right? For really tech to scale in a way that could build a super large business. And so I think Singapore is where you start the business, but it's from here you need to be very thoughtful about where you go next. Now there's a few directions,
right?
Depending on what you're building and what type of product you have, you could go to Indonesia, you could go to Vietnam, you could go to Malaysia, you could go to Australia. Yeah. You could build a regional business. So we have a number of portfolio companies that started in Singapore and have scaled and still have headquarters here and have built large regional businesses. One of them is an insurtech called Igloo. And they're one of the largest in the region, and they're like 6 or 7 countries regionally, right? Mm-hmm. And so for me, I don't necessarily have a bias that you can't start here. My real bias is from here, then what? What are you building after? Yeah. So, but I'm super supportive of companies that start here. It's the reason why we are here. Because it is a gateway to the rest of Southeast Asia and in many cases even Asia. Mm-hmm. You see a lot of capital inflow from North Asia. You see a lot of capital inflow from India, mm-hmm. from the GCC into this region. But the build needs to make sense. And by the way, the GCC has a very similar dynamic and problem. You can start a company in Dubai, but you can't just scale it in Dubai. It has to be more than that, right? And so then what?
So I'm curious, when you mentioned that start from Singapore, scale it, and then you mentioned Igloo.
Yep.
Right. Maybe you can give us a little bit of an idea of what you see insurtech or insurance in the technological front, and a little bit of the future based on your experience.
Yeah. So my view is that there's a number of traditional businesses that are meant to be disrupted by technology. And that disruption will eventually make the incumbents of that business better and stronger. So this really started with financial services and fintech. And then a few years later, insurance services and insurtech. The fintech space has made banks a lot better, has made them a lot more thoughtful about their business operating model, about their customer experience, their digital customers experience has allowed them to make their production a lot more efficient for their users. And insurance is the exact same way, where the insurers would touch a huge population in a very significant set of products. But there's a bunch of new products and new use cases that the insurance just could not get their heads around and just could not build products for. And maybe some of them required a lot of scale to be profitable, which is why the insurers like, no, I don't want to deal with that. But then some of them also were just novel use cases that were just really hard to build products for, like climatic insurance, for example. And that's where the insurtech industry was born. Eventually, you see this in financial services as well. you see a convergence between the two. So what you're playing with actually is just time.
Okay.
Because you're hoping that the fintech that you've invested in does super well, super fast, but faster than when the bank catches up.
Right.
Because if the bank catches up, then you can compare the technology of the bank to the technology of the fintech.
Yeah.
And say, actually, you look kind of the same, you're just smaller.
Uh-huh.
So I should give you the bank's revenue multiple or EBITDA multiple as opposed to a technology company multiple, because the bank's got similar technology.
Yes.
So that's what's happening in insurance as well. So insurance is, insurtechs are great because they're out innovating insurers until the insurers catch up.
Oh, I see.
The good news is the insurers haven't caught up yet. There's only one or two that are really ahead of the curve in terms of technology. The rest are really happy with their
Current setup.
model.
current,
the traditional
legacy
setup.
in perpetuity businesses. So they're super happy with that, and they see a little bit of churn, but then a little new customers, and they're happy to grow, single-digit percentage points year on year, no problem. But there'll be a point in time, and especially now with AI, I'm convinced that there will be a point in time where insurers will start to adopt that faster, and the insurtechs will have to figure out what their role is still within the ecosystem.
So I want to put in the context with the 3 pointers that you mentioned just now, right? So maybe you can share with us an idea of what is a potential product that can
and
be scaled?
Before we go there, right, to
Yeah.
all you viewers out there, right, in case you guys don't know, this is an opportunity here,
Yeah,
right? It's a huge opportunity.
It's a checklist for you to build a product around, right? So what insurtech insurance product potential one can be potentially developed, right, for that scale that you think is available in the region?
I think you're going to see a significant amount of job loss via AI.
Job loss where? In the insurers?
No, everywhere.
Okay, everywhere.
So what AI is going to do two things for society. It's going to make society a lot more productive and a lot more efficient for those that adopt it. For those that don't adopt it, there's going to be a lot of job loss, right? There's an insurance product out there for that type of job loss and reclassification and retraining of audiences, and making sure that they're well versed in future AI. And again, to go through my own checklist, this problem is not a Singapore only problem. This problem is going to be a global problem.
Right.
And the cool thing is, in this particular case, now that I think about it a little bit more, it's going to be a public and a private sector problem, because job losses at massive scale or in parts of industries or parts of societies will not only be a private sector problem, but it'll also be a public sector problem to facilitate that. And so there's definitely a company and an insurance opportunity or a ed tech / insurance opportunity to really drive that that change is coming.
The risk, right? Yeah.
So how do you underwrite that risk?
Right. Oh.
So in case you are still building anything, right? Please take reference to this use case, right?
Exactly, man. I was actually thinking, all the different opportunities out there that, we can leverage on and all. Yeah.
I mean, that will fly well with HR companies, right? Because they understand the employment
so it's coming. I mean, I've gone from spending hours and hours to writing articles to an hour. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's minutes just yet, but at least an hour. And I spend more time on ideation and less time on writing, right?
Yeah.
I'm spending a lot more time where, software used to just help me do things, to now I tell software to do 3 or 4 steps at one point in time, as opposed to me doing them, right? And so there's going to be a time where a lot of jobs are going to be made a lot easier, which means, hey, as a society, we're going to have more time, blah, blah, blah. But it gets to a point where all of a sudden companies are going to price lower or keep those profits without keeping the human.
Right.
Give me an example. I came across an AI company yesterday that tried doing this in 2016, failed. Now it's trying to do it in 2024, relatively successful. What they do, they take construction sites.
Okay.
and they tell you in your construction site, you have this tractor, this machine, this heavy duty machine. Get rid of your people. We'll operate it remotely.
Oh, wow.
We'll operate the whole thing remotely via
Wow,
cameras.
this is exciting already.
We're autonomous things.
And,
we'll put cameras.
people won't
we
get
can
killed.
operate. Nobody's going to get killed,
nobody's
right?
going to get killed.
Sounds so safe.
So we'll do this entire thing remotely for you.
Yes.
And actually, it's safer because your guys don't have to come onto the construction site.
Yeah.
So if you want to keep your guys' jobs, just tell them to come to our center, like a center
And
like
then
this.
to operate.
There'll be a bunch of cameras and joysticks, just like they would in the machine. And you don't need to go to the site. So that sounds great in 2024. Okay. So you as a business owner are like, oh, okay, cool. I save money on transporting them. I save money on labor insurance on site.
Yes.
Fantastic. That's today. What will stop you from saying, hey, actually, if I can create a room like this in Singapore that costs $20,000 a month, right? Why can't I do this in India or in Bangladesh for $5,000 a month with the same operators? Or why can't I keep that site running 24 hours? Because I'm restricted to the time that my Singaporean labor force is awake today. But tomorrow I can keep them, I can pay them less, do 4 hours of work in Singapore because government told me I have to hire somebody over here. Okay, do 4 hours here. And then I'm going to keep 20 hours of work on that site by somebody remote dialing in and managing those machines. Right?
That's exciting,
creates-
right?
That's
It
exciting. I'm
scary.
excited already. In fact, that's Minecraft.
It creates two opportunities. It creates a massive opportunity for the security sector to make sure all of this is secure and you don't have crazy tractors going down the street on Orchard Road beating up cars, right?
Yeah.
So there's definitely opportunities there, and there's definitely opportunities for companies here. But what happens to that population? At a certain point in time, some entrepreneurs will use this and say, oh, wow, I can be a lot more efficient with my business. The altruistic ones will be like, I could be a lot more efficient with my business. I can give my people more time off. They can have better quality of life. Fantastic. The greedy entrepreneurs or the capitalists will say, hey, you know what? I can actually get a little bit more profit here, get a little bit more profit here, get a little more profit here. And this entire thing is run autonomously. I'm just giving you one example, right? There's a company that is fresh in mind because I saw it yesterday. And this is a global problem, right?
Definitely.
So you're going to have all of these, and it's an opportunity, whoever is building outsource centers in India, Vietnam, Philippines, whatever, a fantastic opportunity. Maybe all the people who are just disrupted by call centers may show up in here. But this is one where all of a sudden you have a lot of people that are unemployed. So what do you do with them? How do you retrain them for the world of the future? So that's an opportunity, right? And there's an insurance play in there, there's education play in there.
Yeah, sounds like to all the parents out there, I think it's time to let our kids game.
Play a little bit more Minecraft,
You never know what that gaming become a job opportunity.
I mean,
yeah?
even you both of you, I'm assuming, are Singaporeans, so you've done NS. I would not be surprised. Maybe your children, or I don't even think your children, so within your children's lifetime, that the NS experience is a lot more digital than it is physical. There'll obviously always still be a physical component. But if you look at any war that's occurring around the world today, it is more digital than it is physical. Yeah, there's some really ugly images, but a lot of the damage is done by remote drones.
Yeah, remote drones.
In places you don't even know where they're operating from.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think digital is going to have an impact in many ways in our society.
That's an awesome insight.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Huge opportunities.
Yeah. Now I want to pull you out, from the industry, and I want to focus on you.
Sure.
Because I want to tap on your brains, on your experience itself.
I was a little bit hesitant because
Yeah,
I wanted to
tap in
continue.
more actually, but I thought
we have
actually,
to go back to
the So back to you. In fact, I'm curious because I think you have such vast experience, right? And you did a few job switches as well. And just now we did mention, some of the highs and lows that you've been through. My question to you is, have you ever felt that, you wake up one day and you decided this is not the thing that I want to do?
Yeah, all the time. All the time. I'm but sort of unique to me. I'm a little bit more creative, and I'm always in search of an entrepreneurial experience. I've had a few in the past, and still quite a few ongoing. These days, my entrepreneurial experience outside of running a pet services business out of the Middle East is limited to running them, working with my founders, and so I spend I run on the highs and lows through them. I live through them vicariously. But I think about that all the time.
Right.
I think about two things all the time, and they're complete conflicts with each other. The first one is constant imposter syndrome. So I wake up constantly thinking, shit, how did I get here? And am I supposed to be here? And will I be able to do this? Because our founder is entrepreneurial, and our founder continues to say, "Oh, you're doing that well. Forget about it. Now go do this other thing, right? And this other thing's like a deeper pool than the pool you were just swimming in, right?
Okay.
And you're like, and he expects you to swim and swim well, right? Not survive, but swim well, and without any floats. And he'll give you the guidance, and he'll give you, open some doors and try and make that transition easy. But he expects you to do the hard yards. And so, not just me, he does this with everybody at the firm at varying levels. We are living under constant imposter syndrome. It's a good thing.
For certain type of people, right?
For certain type of people, it's a good thing, because I genuinely thrive on the challenge, right? So I'm spending a lot more time in the Middle East, rebuilding or building our ecosystem there. Yes, I'm from there. Yes, it's native to me, but I still have to do it, right? And the Middle East has changed, right? Since when I lived there. So that brings on new opportunities for me to look at it with a fresh pair of eyes, but new challenges to make sure that we're actually building the right type of ecosystem in the same way we did in Southeast Asia. So imposter syndrome is one. And then I'm constantly looking at ideas just like the ones I gave you. And it's like, wow, that business, I wish I could do that. Like if I did that, that'd be so easy to do. And I could, do it like this, that, this. So that's constantly
at the back of
on the back of my mind. I've never done anything about it yet, partially because I really, really enjoy what I do. And it goes back to that earlier thing in consulting where I was seeing one telecom industry, and then I was fascinated with a consultant who got to see all the industries.
Yes.
I'm in the place now where I see everything, right? I see e-commerce, I see enterprise SaaS, I see AI, and I'm living through the biggest industrial shift of our time, and I have a front row seat. So I consider myself very lucky and grateful to be in that opportunity, to have that opportunity. But I'm constantly thinking about that.
Yeah. So when you got constantly thinking about that, right, in terms of operation wise or work itself, right, as you mentioned, when you are in that consultancy firm, which you totally didn't enjoy it, right? How do you get yourself out of things that you don't enjoy?
Yeah. I think no matter whether you enjoy or you don't enjoy, I think a prerequisite to anything is a positive outlook and a positive attitude. And just from my time in cricket, any situation is reversible, and anything you can come back from anything. It's really just a mindset, right? So you've really got to convince yourself that there is something better out there, and really plug away at building for those opportunities. For me personally, I genuinely believe that life is too short, and if you aren't enjoying what you're doing, you shouldn't be doing that thing, no matter how well it pays, no matter how comfortable it is. If you're not in an environment where you believe you can truly succeed, you should find a way.
Yeah. So on that topic, because I caught a few things that you did mention just now previously about selling.
Yeah.
Right. And you mentioned that your job, there's a lot of selling, convincing and all. And to a lot of people out there, whether or not they're corporate staff in the corporate ladder
Yeah.
or they're entrepreneurs, there's a good big bulk of them that say, hey, actually, I hate selling.
No, everyone sells.
Right?
Everybody sells.
So-
You're selling all the time. You're selling to your wife that you want to go out and hang out with Matthew for a drink. She's like, why?
People do know me for that, by the way.
So you're selling. You know, if your child wants to come play with you and you're really interested in whatever it is you're doing in your phone, and you ask me for 5 more minutes, that's a sell.
Yeah.
You're selling all the time. You're closing all the time. Big things, small things. You don't know it, but you do it. And so there's no. Maybe you don't enjoy having conversations, but every other conversation is some form of a negotiation. And so you should, whether you like it or not, you're
just selling.
Yeah, you're selling.
Whether it's an idea, an opinion, a decision making.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, you
Structure
are
is
selling.
better. Yeah. Structure is better when you do it.
So in fact, you were mentioning that there's a lot of advice that you give, some of the co-founders, the founders of the startups that you were working with. How did this skill come to you? Was it because there were mentors along the way that taught you so that you are able to relay this skill or deploy this skill in the current situation?
So I don't ever give advice to anybody, right? What I do is I just relay places from my experience or places from our firm's experience in certain situations and find parallels, right? And I leave it at that, and I hope I leave it purposely vague so that you can find whatever it is
they're looking for.
You're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
For me personally, where I relate well with founders is I've built a business. I've had to let go of staff. I've had to struggle to make payroll. I've had to look under my couch for extra, coins,
Cash, coins.
to try and make things happen. Right.
That's the reality of entrepreneurship.
That's
right?
real.
Yeah.
That's real. And that's real. And unlike venture-backed entrepreneurship, that's real entrepreneurship where you take loans out. You got to pay. You completely blow your savings. You do whatever it takes to make a company work. Right. So that's real. That's as real as it gets. The venture-backed stuff is not necessarily not real because you have venture capitalists to respond to and a board to and governance to respond to. But when you're doing it on your own, I feel it's one more degree of loneliness because I was joking with one of my employees the other day. I said in one of our companies that my wife and I manage in the Middle East, and I said all of everyone's problems are my problems, but my problems
Not everybody.
are only my problems,
Yeah.
right? So you need a loan, you need a salary advance, or you need a whatever. I'm supposed to find a way to make that happen for you. Otherwise, you start sulking at me. Oh, you're a horrible
Leave the
boss or
job.
whatever. But if I need a salary advance, where do I go to get that, right?
Uh-huh.
And so it's just, it's a lonely experience. So just to answer your question directly, I don't give advice. I literally talk to people about the colors I've lived through. And the struggles, good and bad, that I've had, experiences good and bad that I've had, and you take whatever you want from it. Could be nothing. That's okay, but at least you know that you're not alone. I've lived through some of that with you, and
Right.
I'm also completely pragmatic, and I can completely accept the fact that. I told you, there's one founder where we backed a business when he was quite small, and now he's ready to become public.
Yeah.
There are parts of that conversation I can't have with him anymore because he's well beyond where I've ever been. And I'm so happy for that, right? There are parts of my consulting role where I've taken companies public in the past that I can relate to him on and talk to him about the book, about how he markets, how he positions, which markets, etc. I can have those conversations and try and be relevant there. But the business building blocks stuff is he's built things that, I could only dream of.
Right. So in that said, because I think for you gave a lot of advice in a way, right? And I think a lot of young ones, they are looking at in terms of mentorship in general, right? And some of them probably would not know how to go about doing it. What's your advice to that?
I think there's a lot of people. There's a lot of in Southeast Asia. I'm just gonna be real, okay?
Please. This is no bullshit anyway.
Yeah, there's no bullshit here. In Southeast Asia and in Singapore, there's a lot of hot air. Okay, there's a lot of people who are happy to talk. But they haven't lived through a lot of the experiences, right? But they're happy to be your mentor, happy to give you guidance, happy to be an advisor or whatever. My only counsel to young folks is seek out people that you wish you could be. Genuinely, you wish you could be. Genuinely, you wish you could have lived through that journey, right? And not where they are, but all of the steps of that journey to where they are, right? And you need to make sure you're prepared to live through all of those.
Right.
And if you respect all of those, the good, the bad, the ugly, then talk to that person and say, hey, I would love, 15 minutes of your time and try and do it in a way that's consistent, not just a one-off. I have folks that will come up and say, oh, you started your own company and then you did this and you did that. Great. And then they'll have a 15-minute conversation. Fantastic. And then they're gone. And I never hear from them again. And I'm like, oh, maybe I scared them off. The reality is I'm not sure they knew what they were doing in the first place. And so they're wasting their time. They're wasting my time. Right. If you know what you're doing, you be prepared to ask questions, go back, do something, have next steps, come back, ask more questions,
follow
have an agenda,
through all the way, right?
And make sure you follow through. Otherwise, don't
even
bother.
Yeah.
Don't bother.
Great advice.
Oh, that's brilliant advice.
Yeah.
That's brilliant advice.
But there's a lot of people that are in high places, and you go talk to them, and you're like, oh, can you be my mentor? And they're good for some things. There's good for like relationships, and there's good for something. I'm not discounting that. But I don't think that's where you're going to get the meat of the build that you're looking to build. I think that comes from people that really want to invest in you, and you're willing to invest in and put time to be in front of them to really drive through whatever it is that you want to try and achieve.
Yeah. I think on that aspect of human people, right, raise another question to me. I think both of you guys are in the SFA committee, right? And my next question here is actually networking. Right? I mean, you guys are in the board. You guys are looking at people who are hoping to network to broaden their perspective or broaden their network in terms of, revenue growth or businesses. How important is this networking?
Go for it. How important is networking, Mr. President?
I think that's it's really the bread and butter of. I think when you mentioned just now, what Cathay is. It's a platform to connect to a variety of potential, if not existing stakeholders, correct? And I think being part of an association is actually a mirror of something like this. And I think maybe you can share, do you think it's I think we both know it's important, right? Maybe highlight what networking has done for you in your career so that people can relate to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you one aspect of Cathay that I've learned, that if I ever, and I hope it never happens, but if I ever leave Cathay, this is the one thing I will take with me. Okay, there's so many amazing people and humans there, and such a great energy and such a great spirit globally. But there's one core element that I will take with me that overrides everything else, and that is being useful. Okay, and that applies in networking too. Okay, so when you walk into a room, you can introduce yourself. Hi, hello, I'm so and so. I work at so and so. I do so and so. Right. And then they'll say, oh, I do this and that. And you'll talk about, something that you find in common. And then oh, let's exchange business cards and let's see what happens. And then that's it. Nothing can happen. That's it.
Yeah. This is the end of conversation.
End of conversation. You may reach out on WhatsApp. Oh, hi, I met you at, the SFA event and I enjoyed what we said, blah, blah, blah. Let's have a follow-up.
But that's very common, isn't it?
It's common.
Yeah.
Basic. And it's useless.
Yeah.
It's useless. It's draining and it's largely a time waste. And then they'll add you on LinkedIn or you add them on LinkedIn and that's kind of that, right? When I think about networking and meeting people, it's immediately like if I see you, I'm trying to think of what angle can I be helpful to you, or what angle can you be helpful to me?
Right.
Right. Where's the action? Because then that action creates opportunity.
Yes.
Right. And so how can I be useful to you? So like our founder, I've had seen him do this in different parts of the world now. But he'll do the exact same thing. He'll walk into a meeting. He'll say, oh, we're this, we're that, whatever. This is what we've built. But at the end of the day, none of that's important. The only thing that matters is I'm here to A, pay my respects to you. And I copy him and do that a lot now. And B, how can I be useful to you? What can I do for you? Now, most people don't fully know what the resources are that sit behind him or sit within Cathay. So they don't really know how to answer that question. But if you prompt them and say, oh, by the way, I have this, or I know that, or I have this corporate, or this person would be very, very interested in you, all of a sudden that starts to spark ideas.
Yes.
And so networking is important for access, but it's only important if you do something with that access. Otherwise, you're spending an hour and a half, 2 hours in the evening. Hopefully the drink's free. But you're not getting anything from it, right?
Right.
And so for me, it's always what's the angle, and how can I be useful to you, or how can you be useful to me? Or I'll immediately go on LinkedIn. Who's common? Is there somebody else that you know that I want to know? Can you help me connect? Like, let's find an angle to
collaborate,
work together. Yeah.
Right.
Either for you, for portfolio companies. So like I was mentioning to you, I was in Dubai. I met a founder of a venture capital fund. He backed a company that I didn't know he backed in Latin America. And it was very close to one of my companies in Southeast Asia. Our Cathay's portfolio in Southeast Asia. And so I immediately connected, and now we're connected because now I know that not only do we have a great conversation, but actually these companies could work together. Tomorrow, one of them could own the other one, who knows? And it started from that moment, right? So there's always, networking is good, but you need to be useful.
Right. Yeah. So on the topic of networking, right, let's move on to our second statement. So welcome back. So what I have here, right, is the Enzo card, right, that developed by MESSION itself. So today, right, we're gonna have this, right, I won't use the word role play, but exact usage, right, of this Enzo card with our guest here. Right. So what happened is that when we developed Enzo card, it was because we realized that many of our young friends, not even young friends, even the older ones, experienced ones, when they go for networking sessions or when they go for certain mentorship sessions, they ran out of questions to ask.
Okay.
Right? Because they might not be inexperienced enough to ask certain questions they pop in. Yeah. So we developed this Enzo card into 4 acts, right, for them to ask various type of questions.
Okay.
So today
is it for sale on your website?
So, yeah, it's going to be on sale on the website. Not yet, but soon. Yeah.
Okay.
So probably when this podcast out, it might be on the website already. Right. So today I'm going to use Act 1.
Okay.
Right. And what I will do, right, is I'll just shuffle this one up, and I will actually just place it randomly, just for the simplify of this whole experience here. And I would like you, right, to actually choose 2 cards from here, right, and we will have them answered.
Okay.
How about that? 13.
That one.
This one?
That one.
Okay. This one?
No, that one.
This one.
Yep.
All right. Okay. One more?
I'll go with this one.
This one. All right. So he has chose 2 cards over here. Wow. Well, I was about to ask you these questions in the next segment, but I can ask it straight here.
Okay.
So Matthew, why don't you ask this question?
So, what were your hobbies and interests before you became successful in your current field?
Okay. So I'm not successful in my current field.
He's being humble, okay?
There's still a long way to go. But my current hobbies are still my current hobbies. They haven't changed. So I do three things. The first one is cricket. So I play cricket competitively here in Singapore. And if I'm not playing or training for myself, then I'm training with my son because he does the same thing that I do. The second hobby is photography.
Oh. So
I spend a lot of time sometimes you'll see me roaming the streets, usually in a hoodie and black tracks, taking street photography. And I spend a lot of time testing cameras for a camera company called Leica.
Oh.
And so that's hobby too. So you can find my work on Instagram. And then the third one is my son. So if I'm not doing the first two things, then all of my time is with him. And it could be doing nothing. It could be being silly at home, making paper airplanes. These days, we're working on our gift wrapping for Christmas skills. So it could be anything random, but we're just spending time together. Nice. So those would be the three.
Wow.
Nice.
And those are the same. So yeah, it's been the same for the last 10, 15 years.
So there you go, right? A little insight for you guys out there, right? Or a little personal side of him that you might not know.
Yes.
Yeah. So second question, I think something that you probably have answered previously, right? But I'm going to ask you nonetheless, right? Is who or what inspired you to take the first step towards your career path?
Okay. The first step was a guy called Javier Samarini. He's no longer with us. He passed away during COVID, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. But he was a Bentley alum. So I went to undergrad at Bentley, and he was a Bentley alum. And I was looking for a role, and I didn't know anything about technology or telecommunications. I didn't know anything about strategy or business development or M&A or any of that. But what really attracted me to him was his energy. His energy was off the charts, just off the charts, positive, enigmatic energy, and one where, he's a guy that, if he was with you, he could run through walls, right? And so actually that's something that's been steadfast in my career. I've never followed the opportunity. I've always followed the individual.
Right.
Okay. So, even currently in Cathay, I joined a firm where I only knew one person, right? And we had a meeting in Plaza Singapura. That was where my interview was, in the Coffee Bean Tea Leaf at Plaza Singapura, which is still there.
Yeah,
it's a very nice vibe. And that was it. That was my one. And I had 2 calls on Zoom. But the calls on Zoom with the 2 partners, and there's two others, but the 2 decision makers, which were on Zoom, were again energy calls. Those were calls where I really just enjoyed the energy of the humans.
Yeah.
And that I took a leap and I said, hey, yeah, why not? Because the energy of these guys is just insane. Even before that, in consulting, same thing. So it's always been for me the people. People make the place, and then hopefully you find more people like that to really enjoy the space. But I've never found an opportunity for shameless plug. I like it.
Yeah.
I've never found an opportunity to join a firm because of the logo or the brand name or whatever. It's always the people.
Wow. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. 2 questions from Enzo to
That's
Mr.
great.
Rajive.
Those are great questions. Yeah.
There are a lot more questions from there.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
It's good.
We take a pause here. Okay. Can we go back to the main interview? Let me clear this. Yeah. Wanted to bring this out. In fact, we only started this segment.
Okay.
You are the second person that we started.
Ah, cool. Privileged.
So it'll be quite fresh for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're gonna leave this here. Shameless plug. Why not? Yeah. Okay, so now we are into the fourth segment,
Okay.
right? So these are additional, these are the last part where we talk about the inspiration to the younger ones and all.
Okay. Sure.
Okay. Right. You want to ask the first question?
Ask the first one.
Yeah, so you can just say welcome back and then we can.
Okay.
So,
So rolling, right?
Okay.
So welcome back. So to Rajiv, what advice would you give to young entrepreneurs, right, who are just starting out but they feel overwhelmed by the challenges that they're facing?
Yep, absolutely. First of all, it's never been easier to start a business. I felt that 5 years ago. I feel that even more today because all of the constraints over time have been removed. Previously, when you started a business, you needed some startup capital. You don't need that anymore. You can start that at home. You can start that with a bunch of digital tools. You don't even ever have to even touch the product. And so it has never been easy to start a business. And so I would just say start. And the second thing I would say is start small. You don't have to be big to be successful. You could build a lot of brick and mortar businesses and just do that 1% better than the person who's been doing that for years and years and years. And you'll immediately enjoy great margins and it'll be a good lifestyle business.
right.
You know, one thing we see a lot in our line, I don't see it as much because I'm more of a early growth stage investor, but I know a lot of my friends in the early stage see this, and when I seed companies, we see this as well. Is founders or young people always believe they need startup capital,
Yeah.
right? So I don't know how to fundraise, but do you need to fundraise? Do you need venture capital? Like, is this business a venture capital backed business? Like, should it be? Can it not just be, you know, your friends and family putting together some money to help you out, build it, use the profits to build some more,
Rebuild
build
again.
some more,
Yeah.
build some more, scale. Why does it have to be VC backed? So that, you know, this especially was the case in 21 and 22, where we'd have all of these flashy headlines. So-and-so raises $100 million and so-and-so raises, you know, exits at $1 billion. But not every business needs to be like that. And for every one of those businesses that are like that, there's 100 that are not.
Yes.
And will never be. And so you need to ask yourself, why are you in business? Are you in business to grab that headline? Or are you in business to truly solve a problem? And most problems don't actually need VC capital.
Backed. Yeah.
And so if you can get away without it,
Why not?
even better. You'll be 100% owner of your business and 100% in control of your destiny. It's only when you really feel that actually, you know what, I need some expertise because I want to scale this globally. I want to build something really deep in the region. I want to scale this fast. I need a partner to really help me. Yeah, then you absolutely should talk to venture and start that journey. But most businesses don't need to ever go there.
So if you could go back to when you were 20 years old,
Yeah.
what would you tell him about the road ahead?
Well, 20 years, I'd still be in college. And my first year in college was not great because I was still wanting to be a cricketer then. I probably said stick with that. No, I think the journey that I've taken has prepared me well for where I'm at. So I've sort of seen a lot of the pieces that I kind of needed to see. I think I'm yearning for an entrepreneurial experience at some point. Another entrepreneurial experience at some point. So we'll see what sort of shape that takes. Right now I'm an entrepreneurial experience because I'm working with our firm and helping build out a new ecosystem. And so, yeah, I mean, for me, I will always, if I could go back and if my son is 20 and asking me, hey, you know, what should I do? Go build something. It's the fastest way you will. There's two ways to learn all about life very fast. There's a slow way. You can go through corporate ladder. That's a super slow way. The fast way is you go if you do really well in sports, because that'll teach you about discipline, training, resilience, rejection, politics, all in one. Sometimes you put in the hard work and you still don't get the result, and you're like, well, what am I doing wrong, right?
Yeah.
They'll teach you about 80-20. It teaches you about all of those things in a very short amount of time. If you think about it, my son is 9.5, and he's faced all of those things already. He knows if I don't put in, I'm not going to get out. If I don't work hard, I'm not going to. If I can't play this type of ball, I'm never going to play well in the game. If I don't play well in 3 games, I might get dropped from the team, and so on and so forth, right? So it's a very short microcosm for life. The other microcosm for life is building a business. You're going to get, in a short amount of time, you're going to have all the anxiety. I'm going to build a product. Does the product work? Do people believe me? Do people believe I can do this? Does some character that is working a very cushy job, can I attract them to come into my company?
Right.
Why should they come? Right? Will they believe me? Will they stay with me? If I have to go raise capital, right? Even from a bank, even from a venture capital, I'm going to hear 1,000 no's before I hear a yes. How do I get that? So you have to be ready for rejection. You have to be ready for all of the success that comes with it, but even ready for all the failures. My vendor is calling me. This guy's payment is due. That one's due, right? So all of these things in a compressed amount of time, which you don't get in corporate land, right? So those for me are the 2 microcosms of how you learn very quickly. You should go do those.
Wow, I love how you talk about sports, man. I think it seems like sports shape you a fair bit.
We can relate, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, sports taught me every life lesson very, very early, and I have a huge admiration for anybody who's done any type of sport, whatever it is, whatever the sport, wherever you. But if you've taken it all the way, irrespective of which country, whatever, there's obviously something special about you because we've lived through that, right? We've woken up an hour before school to go to practice, even 2 hours
3
after.
hours before school.
Wake up early, go back, go back to sleep late.
So and you're practicing on Saturday, games on Sunday or whatever. You're always constantly. My son's constantly thinking. I've put this in his head now, so he's constantly thinking. Do I go to my friend's party? Do I go to the game? Do I go to practice? Is this decision going to get me closer to my dream or further from my dream?
Yeah.
And then every decision is tested on closer or further, right? The other thing that sports will do, especially for younger kids, and it'll keep you out of trouble because once you're in that discipline and you're with a bunch of teammates who are in the same ideology and environment as you, and if you have a great coach that's driving force there, as I did, then you have no time to think about anything else.
Right? Yes.
Yeah, which is great for parents.
We didn't have time.
We didn't have time. We spend most of the time in the pool, man.
Yeah.
Well, so now that we brought you back to the past, right? I'm gonna bring you to the future.
Yeah.
Because as a VC, and as well, of course, looking at startups.
Yeah.
And you did mention previously on some of the industry in terms of AI, right? What other things other than AI do you think that will be the future of our industries or the world for the matter?
I think outside of AI, security is going to be huge. So the world is a more dangerous place. And so keeping it safe and keeping it secure is going to be a key tenet. AI obviously is going to be a huge proponent. There's going to be a need for a new wave of energy. And so the energy transition is going to be super important. And then for me, the last one is food scarcity. So making sure that there's food available, or we don't consume as much food, or we consume more efficiently is going to be better, essentially eradicating hunger. For me, those are the key areas or building blocks of global society, from at least our vantage point today.
Yeah. And what about yourself? What do you think about the future for yourself?
For me?
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'm on a journey, right? So any investor's journey is to do 3 things. Is to be able to raise some capital, deploy that capital, and then see that capital come home. Right? You've sent some soldiers out to battle. the soldier needs to come back and bring some friends with him, right? That's how we think about it. And so I need to see that final part of my journey where we have our soldiers come back home and get some exits. So as far as future that I'm focused on, that's the only future I'm focused on at the moment. Exits.
So what impact do you hope for your work to have on the next generation of startups or entrepreneurs?
Yeah, we're building funds, and we're investing in companies that we hope really reshape the world, make healthcare more accessible. I gave you one example about Rebello and used electronics that will make carbon emissions a lot better, right? And so I gave you an example about Igloo for climatic insurance that will improve lives of farmers, delivery drivers, etc., and make sure that they're safe and that they're well fed in the event of any downside scenarios. So anything that we do really needs to have an impact layer associated to it in order for it to make sense for us to do or to invest in. And that's a big tenet of what we do as a firm, and what we believe in. So we hope that all of the investments that we make and the companies that we make are successful, and that leave a positive impact on society.
Right. So for every single guest that sit on this table or on that chair, I will actually ask them if there's one word they will give to all inspiring entrepreneurs out there.
Yeah.
What would that one word be?
One word. There's a lot of words. There's some words you can't say on the podcast. That's not very inspiring. I'd say the one word actually, and I like this word a lot because it encapsulates a lot of emotion, is resilience. Okay. So resilience encapsulates discipline. It means that, if you fall, you need to get back up and get back up fast. It means that you are able to work hard and never take no for an answer, and you always find a way. So for young entrepreneurs, young startups, it's going to be a grind. It's going to be hard. Making payroll is never easy. Looking for that next term sheet is never easy. Fundraising is thankless, soulless job. But if you have resilience and you have conviction in your idea, you'll be fine. You'll find a way.
Wow. Thank you. That's really awesome, right? Resilience, ladies and gentlemen, resilience. So before we end off this whole show, maybe I'll put your focus into this camera over here.
Okay.
Any final last piece of advice to any young entrepreneurs or anyone out there who's looking for success?
If you're looking for success, I have no advice for you. But if you're looking to go on a rewarding journey, what I will say is that journeys take time, and be ready to put in the work and put in the time, and do it one step at a time. And you'll climb the whole building and you'll get to the top. But even to get to the top, when the elevator is not working, which it isn't for most of us, it's not working, you have to climb one step at a time.
Thank you very much for coming to our show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Thank you.
That was what an amazing conversation. His journey from being a founder to a VC, his epic stories, his passion for helping startups through the ups and the downs has been nothing short of but inspiring. And honestly, a whole ton of fun to hear about it.
So thank you, Rajiv, for bringing your energy, your wisdom, and all those golden nuggets of advice for the next generation of entrepreneurs out there. We can't wait to see what groundbreaking ventures that you will back next. And who knows, maybe you'll be inspiring someone listening right now to start their journey. So thank you very much again for hanging out with us, Rajiv. Let's do this again soon.
This episode is brought to you by me-ssion in collaboration with the Singapore FinTech Association, supported by the InsurTech Subcommittee. I hope this podcast has ignited your mission. So do join us for more stories behind the future of finance from successful individuals on Mission Ignite. Hi guys, thank you for listening. If you like what you have just heard, follow us for more content like this.